Boundaries are healthy. Yes. It's funny because I had someone tell me not too long ago they were never taught about boundaries. And we were in a relationship and was like, I didn't know we had boundaries. And I was shocked. Shocked. First of all, because of the age of this person. Second of all, because I thought everybody knew about boundaries. And apparently, everyone does not know about boundaries. So it's important for you that you understand it is healthy, in fact, to have good boundaries and to establish those boundaries before people have a chance to push in on them. Now, if you're in your middle age, like me, people probably already have pushed in on your boundaries and you're like, now I need to create better boundaries or reinforce old boundaries. So let's just talk real briefly because I'm not going to get into this huge teaching about it. Those of you in Charm Life know we do the exercise of the inner and outer circle. We talk about priorities. We talk about reciprocal relationships and how to really identify. And we have different boundaries with different people. We have a set of boundaries for our children, right? And then we have boundaries with our immediate family, like our parents, our siblings. And then we have boundaries with friends. We have boundaries, or we should, with our bosses and our neighbors and like there's boundaries everywhere in our lives. But you have to start when you're looking at how good are my boundaries, you have to start from here, right? Like immediate. What are my boundaries? How do I allow people to talk to me? How do I allow people to treat me? One of my pet peeves with boundaries is when someone is consistently late and doesn't value my time. Say yes in the comments if that's you too. Like, they're always showing up late, 15, 20 minutes, and it feels like, you don't value my time. And for me, I'm a busy person, right? And I constantly have things going on. So yeah, if you're going to say you're going to meet me somewhere, be there on time, right? So that's one of them. None of you have that one where people are like, yeah, meet me at so-and-so. And then they show up, 20 minutes late, half an hour late, an hour late, like consistently showing up late. Does it not make you feel like, right? So here's the one thing that I've learned to do throughout the years. And I am always early. I sometimes, once in a great while, I will be a few minutes late, and it makes me really uncomfortable because that is one of my boundaries. That is one of my things. Your friends know to add 30 minutes. You know what? And if you tell them that, that's perfectly fine. But you too, if you're running a tight schedule, right, and you say, be here at this time or that time, you don't want to be made late because someone else is late. Like when I run on my appointments and my calls, right, I'm doing them boom, 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 boom. And usually I am right on the dot. If I say 12 o'clock, I am calling you right on the dot, 12 o'clock, before that clock is rolled to 12:01. If I'm even going to be a minute late, I will typically send a message and say, hey, I'm going to be late, because I value other people's time and I want them to value mine. So that's a boundary, right? It's a boundary, a personal boundary. My kids know this, right? We respect each other's time. And my kids are kind of the same way because I've raised them, right? Like with appointments, and I teach them that about like their lessons and stuff like that. Like if you have a 10 o'clock lesson, you need to be there by 9:45, skates on the ice, ready to go. Like don't make your teacher wait. Yeah. I was like that with my horse training too. But that's that thing. Like if you expect it, right, from other people, you have to also abide by it. But be clear on it. Do you have that boundary? So it's that thing of starting from here. Like, what are my boundaries? I have another boundary that a lot of people just don't have anymore. And I think we've talked about this before. It's like from being raised in the 80s, like I was, no phone calls after 9 p.m. Yeah, you guys have that one, right? Don't call after 9. Don't message me after 9 unless you're a really close friend or whatever. But I mean, people will message and text and blah, blah, all hours of the night. And it really is Remember the one from when we were kids? You don't typically reach out to someone during dinner hours. Now I realize, like, with the internet now, it's so much harder to do that because we have friends from all over the world and time zones change. But there is that space where we set boundaries for our children too, or at least the time we're spending with our family. Like if we're sitting down to a meal, you don't answer your phone, you don't pick it up, right? Equally, if we're out to dinner, you're present, you're paying attention. One of my boundaries, like if and this is my thing too, if I'm going to spend time with you, spend time with me. Let's interact. Otherwise, we could just do it here on the internet. We don't need to get in our cars and get dressed and go anywhere. But if you're going to be on your phone, yes. How many of you have that? Especially now in the dating world. I talk to people every day that are trying to find relationships, and they're like, I go out and with this person, guy, girl, whoever, they're constantly on their phone. They're not even present. Like that's a boundary to me, because that's that thing too of like, I'm here, I'm present, pay attention. Like I'm going to give you my attention, give me your attention. I'm that with my children too. Another boundary is if I'm here for you all the time, right? Like we're in a relationship and I'm here for you, then I expect it to be reciprocal, meaning you're there for me, not you're only there when you want something, when you need something. A lot of you have that issue, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. Why that comes up, how that comes up, because a lot of you struggle with that. The number one cause of having weak boundaries or no boundaries or porous boundaries, where you're constantly giving in to people's wants, needs, desires, demands, is because you don't have a strong sense of self-worth. So you really need to work on your self-worth, your self-value, because when you know who you are and what you bring to the table, and you're confident and you don't feel like you need to people please, when you know who you are, you can easily set boundaries with other people, right? When you don't, when you're insecure, and a lot of insecure people not only don't have boundaries, but some of them don't respect other people's boundaries. You'll see this a lot with people who have like narcissism. Narcissists are great at, making their own boundaries and saying you did this and you did that and don't cross here, but they are not good at respecting other people's boundaries. It's like they make sport of stepping on other people's boundaries. You guys get me? So, but they do have. The reason they do that, it's like they're constantly testing the waters to see what they can get. And they have really low self-worth. It may not appear to be so, and you may think, oh, they don't. They do. There's a deep wound somewhere in there. But for you, if you allow that to happen, then that is on you. It's up to you to set the boundary. And if they don't respect that boundary, then take your distance, right? You don't have to be horrible about it. Just, you can tell them how they have disrespected your boundary and then take distance. The other reason why we, without meaning to, don't set or enforce boundaries is because we always want everyone to be happy. A lot of you that are sensitives, that are empaths, that you're very generous and you're overgiving and you're kind of a people pleaser, and you've taken that role on in your family, with your friends, right? With your community. It really is that thing of not wanting to upset anyone, never wanting to make someone mad. Even if you have to take the hit, even if you have to sacrifice, you've taken on the role somehow of the noble sufferer. But that will only leave you drained. So you need to enforce boundaries, okay? So many people are walking around in this space of just being completely disconnected and tuned out. It is up to you to have your own boundaries in place. You know how you go out on the road and you're driving on the freeway? One of the number one things that you learn in driver's ed, defensive driving. Pay attention, because a lot of people aren't. So, and I'm not telling you to be reactive and to be on guard. Hey, you stepped on this boundary, you stepped on that boundary, but pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on in your life, who's in your life, who's taking your energy, how much you are giving out of yourself. And if you're always feeling drained, that is the number one thing you will need to check. Like, how are my boundaries? Do I have any boundaries? And if you don't beat yourself up about it, but certainly look and try to figure out exactly why. You have never felt good enough about yourself, strong enough about your own value to set good boundaries. And again, if people keep offending your boundaries over and over again, you might have to distance from them. It's just that simple. The more emotionally reactive people are, the more sensitive they are, the more they tend to want to take from you. You'll notice people's sort of, those who are energy vampires who want to take from your energy, you'll notice they're pulling on you. And when you feel that, it is perfectly okay to disconnect and pull back consciously, nicely, compassionately, and then get yourself back in order. Keep your house, your life in order, because only you can do that. And you're responsible for that. You can't blame anybody for anything that you allowed have happen. So do you guys have any questions? For those of you who've done Charm Life, you're in Charm Life, always good to repeat that inner outer circle exercise as people come into your life, as you take on new responsibilities, as you set new goals. It's always good to repeat that exercise and then repeat the part about prioritizing. For those of you who don't know, I'm not going to teach that on here, but we teach a lot about boundaries. We learn a lot about boundaries in Charm Life. And like I said, that's been a subject that keeps coming up even within the class, because there's this thing, right, where as you grow and as you evolve, and tell me if you've gone through this, you start to raise your vibe, you raise your happiness level, you start feeling better, you put your boundaries in place, you're starting to really get the knack of feeling good and getting in alignment and building your relationship with spirit, and life feels really good. But the friends that you've had or the people that are around you are swimming in lower energies, and now you're up here and they don't want to do the work that you've been doing to get there, and they want to pull you back down. It's up to you then. Don't feel guilty about not going back to that lower energy level, that complaining, moaning, groaning, grumbling, nothing ever works out for me energy level. Don't feel bad for not wanting to go back there. You can be kind and loving. You can suggest that maybe your friend or family member, do some work on themselves, but you can't change them. At which point you're going to have to make some distance, right? You're going to have to. And feeling guilty is not any good. It's not going to do you any good. And it's a low level energy too, right? Let them be what they want. We can't change other people. We have to accept them for who they are, where they are. But that doesn't mean if someone's in a place of complaining and being judgmental and moaning and groaning all the time, that you have to join them there and stay with them there because of whatever you think you owe them. Everyone has a choice to stand in a place of kindness and compassion, or they can complain. Most people know, I can't take that. That's part of my job, is talking to people and listening to people, but I can't deal with it all the time. If I work with someone and that is where they're stuck and that's their story and they really are invested in it, there's really very little I can do with them. And I'm pretty honest about that too. Is you seem pretty happy with where you're at in a really unhappy place. You seem really invested there. I'm not here to talk you out of it, right? I'm not here to talk you out of it. So in that place, they can find somebody else that doesn't mind dealing with that energy. I have no problem leaving when the energies are getting funky like that, or someone wants to stay in that really crappy low vibe place, because I don't want to hear it. I mean, that's a boundary too that a lot of people have a hard time. It's you're trying really hard to see the good in things, and life is really contrasting right now. There's a lot out there that just appears to be unloving and really judgmental and kind of on the bullying side, and really exclusive, not inclusive, right? There's a lot going on out there. So, but rather than judge it, it's so much better to just step away from it. Don't engage in it. Don't participate in it. You'll feel better. And that may mean that you have to leave a certain business and stop going to it, or you're not going to take part in groups that you've been taking part in. It may mean that you have to change your habits and change who you're hanging out with. But in the long run, you won't feel so drained either. And you'll be able to maintain your authenticity too, and your integrity, and your energetic congruence, being able to keep your energy consistent and always the same. Yeah. Yeah. You don't want people to force their way on you. You know, if you want to be happy, cool, let's go. But if you want to complain about everything and blame everybody for everything happening to you, yeah, that's just, it doesn't fly with me. Like, we all have a choice. And I get bad things happen. Sometimes things of loss, and I'm right there when someone's grieving. But when that is your way of life and you don't have any other language, my boundary is like, stay on your side of the road. I'll stay on my side of the road, and we will peacefully coexist in separate spaces. It has to be that way so that I can maintain my own sanity, right? Yeah. But we cannot change them. So I hope that helps you guys. I know that a lot of you are wanting to really like experience some new things in life, and you know, you're wanting to create healthier relationships, and you want to create more time, and you want to feel better about your life. This is where you start. Get really clear on who you are in here. Get really clear on what you want. Line your language up, line your thoughts up, line your emotions up, line your actions up, and then set the boundary. And anyone who cannot stay within that boundary of being loving and kind and peaceful and whatnot, you're going to have to distance from them. And that's just the way that goes until they're ready, right? But you don't judge them, and you don't need to talk down to them, and you don't need to put them down. You were all once there too. Every now and then we all fall off the bus and we end up down there. But the difference is, do you stay there or do you get back up and keep going? Yeah. Took too long to get here, not going back. Yeah, right? It takes a lot of work to stay in a place of being able to see beyond appearances and holding your own emotional vibration high. And when people start to pull you down into their disillusioned state and lower vibrational state, it will drain you really quick. And if you choose to stay there, you cannot blame them. If you do not excuse yourself from that table and you keep eating from that table, you only have yourself to blame. Yeah. So as uncomfortable and sometimes lonely as it can be, because you're not willing to participate in the gossip and the drama, it is better in the long run. And then new people will come. You'll surround yourself with new people. So I hope that helps. That is the lesson for today. You guys have a good weekend. I'm going to be gone all weekend with my kids out and about. There's some activities going on that they want me to take part in and go with them and support them in, and I'm going to do just that. And I will be back next week on Monday. If you have not checked out Soul Fast, we're starting again on the 1st, but we are ongoing. So I want you guys to join that and start to end your negative self-talk. If you're having a problem with negative self-talk and you want to stop that, go check out Soul Fast. You guys have a good weekend. I love you, and I will see you next week. You're welcome.